Welcome back. Today we're diving into a fascinating topic: Soviet boxing versus Western boxing, key differences and similarities. In this video, we'll explore the unique elements that define each style, comparing techniques, strategies and training philosophies that have set them apart and where they overlap. If you haven't seen our previous video on the Soviet boxing style breakdown, be sure to check it out after this one to get a deeper understanding of what makes Soviet boxing so distinctive. At the core, the Soviet and Western boxing schools are shaped by different philosophies. Soviet boxing leans heavily on a scientific, almost mechanical approach, while Western boxing tends to embrace a more individualistic, artistic flair. Soviet approached the science of boxing. In the Soviet system, boxing wasn't just a sport, it was a science. Coaches meticulously broke down techniques using biomechanics to fine-tune every punch and step. The goal was to create the perfect fighter by optimizing each movement for maximum efficiency. It was about finding the most effective way to win, not necessarily the flashiest. Western approach, the art of the fighter. Western boxing has always celebrated individuality. Fighters are encouraged to develop their own styles, drawing from their natural instincts, physical gifts and personal experiences. It's about letting the fighter's personality shine through in the ring. Whether it's Muhammad Ali's poetry in motion, Mike Tyson's raw power, or Floyd Mayweather's slick defense. Training methods, centralized system versus independent gyms. How a fighter is trained can shape everything from their stance to their mindset. The Soviet system, built around a centralized sports structure, contrasts sharply with the more decentralized approach of Western boxing. Soviet training, one path, one goal. In the Soviet Union, training was standardized and centrally controlled. Talented boxers were funneled into sports academies from a young age, where they trained under a unified curriculum that emphasized technical precision and scientific conditioning. The best trainers, facilities and resources were reserved for developing athletes who showed promise, all with the goal of Olympic and international dominance. Western training, many roads to success. In contrast, Western boxing has a gym culture where independent gyms compete to attract top talent. Fighters often find a gym that fits their style, and the path to greatness is far less uniform. Coaches come with diverse backgrounds, and training can vary widely. Some gyms focus on brawling, others on defense, and some on finesse. The result is a broader range of styles and techniques, making Western fighters more unpredictable. Style, precision versus power. The stylistic differences between Soviet and Western boxing are some of the most striking, reflecting their unique training philosophies. Soviet style, technical precision, and economy of motion. Soviet fighters were trained to be efficient and methodical. The style favored crisp, straight punches, perfect footwork, and fighting at angles to minimize wasted energy. This precision-oriented approach was designed to score points in the amateur ranks and avoid unnecessary exchanges. Fighters used their movement to control distance and pace, ensuring that every punch counted. Western-style power, personality, and adaptability. Western boxing often emphasizes power and aggression. Fighters are taught to go for the knockout and impose their will on their opponents. While many Western fighters are technically skilled, there is a greater focus on developing a style that maximizes a fighter's natural strengths. Whether that's a devastating right hand, relentless pressure, or slippery defense. The freedom to innovate leads to styles as diverse as Sugar Ray Leonard's speed, Tyson Fury's unpredictability, or Canelo Alvarez's hybrid counterpunching. So let's dive into the contrasting focus between amateur and professional boxing. The Soviet system's emphasis on amateur boxing created a different set of priorities compared to Western boxing, where professional careers are often the main goal. In the Soviet Union, the amateur ranks were the top of the mountain. Olympic gold medals and world amateur championships were the ultimate achievements, and training was geared toward the point-scoring system of amateur bouts. Fighters trained for shorter, high-intensity rounds where clean, precise punches won the day. This amateur focus meant that Soviet fighters often had extensive amateur careers with hundreds of bouts. On the other hand, Western fighters often see amateur boxing as a stepping stone to the professional ranks. The pro game rewards endurance, power, and a fighter's ability to win long, grueling battles over multiple rounds. Training in the West often prioritizes preparing fighters for the rigors of 10 or 12-round bouts, with an eye toward career-defining fights that build a fighter's legacy and brand. Defense predictive versus reactive. The defensive approaches also reflect the distinct philosophies of each style: Soviet defense, anticipation, and distance control. Soviet boxers were taught to anticipate their opponent's moves, using footwork and angles to stay out of range. The goal was to avoid getting hit in the first place by staying a step ahead, making opponents miss while staying in position to land counters. It was more about avoidance and control than blocking. Western defense: slip, roll, and block. Western boxing is known for its variety of defensive techniques, from the shoulder roll to slipping punches. Fighters often stay within punching range and use head movement, blocking or parrying to neutralize attacks. The reactive nature of Western defense can create opportunities for immediate counterattacks, adding an element of danger for opponents even when they're on the offensive. Mentality and mindset: regimented versus adaptive. The mindset cultivated by Soviet and Western boxing differs due to their training structures and cultural influences. Soviet mindset: regimented discipline and strategic focus. Soviet fighters were brought up in a system that emphasized discipline, collective achievement, and loyalty to the state. There was a strong emphasis on sticking to the plan, following a coach's instructions, and executing strategies with military-like precision. This systematic approach often produced mentally tough fighters who could stay composed under pressure. Western mindset: individuality and spontaneity. Western fighters are often celebrated for their ability to adapt on the fly. With more freedom to experiment and a greater focus on personal expression, Western boxers tend to develop a fighting spirit that thrives on improvisation and resilience. The mindset is often shaped by the belief that any fight can be won with heart, even if the odds are against you. Legacy and influence on modern boxing. Despite the collapse of the Soviet Union, its boxing legacy endures and continues to influence the sport, just as Western boxing's global appeal has shaped boxing worldwide. Soviet legacy: technique lives on. The principles of Soviet boxing have left a lasting mark, especially in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, where countries like Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan continue to produce elite fighters who combine precision with tactical acumen. The legacy is seen in champions like Alexander Usyk and Gennady Golovkin, who blend Soviet-style fundamentals with professional adaptations. Western legacy: the standard bearer for professional boxing. Western boxing remains the standard for professional success, with the biggest names, fights, and prize money. The culture of Western boxing has influenced training methods around the world, with fighters in other regions adopting Western techniques to prepare for the demands of the pro circuit. Conclusion: the differences and similarities between Soviet and Western boxing tell a story of two schools with different philosophies but the same goal: victory in the ring. While Soviet boxing champions efficiency, precision, and structure, Western boxing thrives on individuality, power, and adaptability. Together, these approaches have enriched the sport, creating a diverse and dynamic landscape where the beauty of boxing lies in the blend of styles and strategies.